Hi guys, it's Debbie. Today I'm sharing some cards that I made using the new Oh Christmas Tree die set from Spellbinders. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Debbie and I love making and sharing lots of crafty things because if I can make it, you can too. I just love this Christmas tree die set. It's got an outline for your tree, it's got a detailed piece that shows all the branches and such, and then it's got some cute ornaments. And I had more fun with this than I really expected to. I started off by just cutting out what I'm going to use for as a stencil. Then I'm cutting out the tree from some white cardstock. What I noticed when I cut it out with the inlay is that all of those little pieces on the inside look like it could be snow resting on the branches, and that just piqued my interest right there. So I'm going to make a couple of cards using that specific piece of this die. But first I also need a couple of pieces that are going to be the branches of the trees, the green part. So I grabbed a scrap of some green cardstock and I'm going to cut out a couple of those trees using that outline die. Now the shade of green that I have from the cardstock in my mind isn't quite dark enough, not for an evergreen tree, so I'm using a blender brush and a couple of distress inks, and I'm just going to, from the outside, try to give it a little bit more dimension and darken up that color a bit. Now that that base background of the trees is done, I want to layer up some of that snow. So what I decided to do is I'm putting the die back into one of my trees. And then I'm going to add the glue to the back of the insert pieces. So the frame part, the outside of it, isn't going to have glue on it, I hope. This did take quite a while, and I did have a little trouble with it because the art glitter glue wound up seeping close to some of the other lines and such. So some of those pieces didn't adhere quite the way that I wanted them to. Plus, I'm impatient, so I didn't actually let it sit on the base once I adhered everything together. I didn't let it sit on there long enough for the glue really to dry. So I'm trying to pull off in this case, the positive space because I'm leaving the negative space on my tree. And it's a little difficult because, number one, everything's not glued as well as it should be. And number two, those pieces that are adhering to my tree are so tiny. So this does take a few minutes to get done, but I absolutely love the result in the end, and I'm pretty sure you guys will too. Now, another way to do this, and I'm going to have to experiment and see how it works, would be to use some double-sided tape on the back of the paper or the cardstock before cutting everything out. Now, these pieces are so tiny that I'm not 100% sure how well I would do it. I'm thinking I'd have to remove the release paper on just the little pieces. Actually, I think what would probably work better is if I did the tree shape first, the outside piece, basically all of the outside snow, because with this technique you get a 2-for-1. I'm able to make one card with all of those little inlays and then another card with the outside shape as being my snow. And I think they both turned out beautiful, but I think using double-sided tape or double-sided adhesive on the back of this would probably make the process go a lot faster. This second tree took pretty much a fraction of the time to put together. All I had to do was add adhesive to the back of that outlined piece. I mean, it's got a lot of the detail and such, but it's all one piece. So all I had to do is add glue to the back of that and adhere it to my second tree. Next, I'm going to work on the backgrounds for my trees. I used the negative space stencil that I cut out earlier to create some shadow images of some trees on the background of a couple of blue card panels in some darker blue ink. Unfortunately, I didn't have my camera recording at that point. Next, I'm going to pop up the two trees that we put together on some foam tape on the front of the card panels. For the sentiment on the front of the card, I'm also using the Home for Christmas Sentiment stamp set that's part of the new release as well. To get my sentiments lined up, I'm using what I've had in my stash forever. This little transparency you see me laying down there is basically where I print out the Misty transparency grid off of their website. So I'm going to go ahead and leave a link down below. It's a free download and it will definitely help you get everything lined up just perfectly when you're wanting to do your stamping in your stamping positioner tool. I'll be heat embossing the sentiment. So first I'm adding some powder from my anti-static tool before stamping everything down in some Wow embossing ink. I'm also going to do a quick test to make sure that I don't have any stickiness on my panel. Since I did do some inking on this one, it's possible that some of that may not be completely dry, so I'm just sprinkling a little bit of that embossing powder down and comes off fine, so this panel is perfect. It's a good idea to always double check just to be on the safe side. Now I'll add some of my gold Recollections embossing powder to that and then hit it with my Morby heat tool. Next I'm going to trim that panel down a touch. I'm using one of the pieces in the Misty's Creative Corners set. I've had this in my stash and I never use them. This one basically gives you a right angle, so I can line that up on my cardstock while it's in my paper trimmer and make sure that my sentiment is actually straight. And then I'm going to turn it and line it up again to make sure that all corners are basically at a 45-degree angle. I'm adding a gold foil mat to my card panel to go along with that pretty gold embossing we have on the front. Then I trimmed that piece down to about, I don't know, 5 1/4 by 4, so I could position it on my card base. Now I'll just remove that release paper and add the tree to the front of the card. For my final little touch, I'm adding some white, I think it's crystal or diamond, I'm not sure which one it is because there's not a name on it, but I'm adding some stickles on all of the white to make it look kind of like snow glistening, and I do that to both of the cards. Thank you so much for dropping by. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you never miss any of my videos. Really appreciate you being here today, and remember, if I can make it, you can too. Have a wonderful day.